everybody, and welcome to the Macaw Podcast Universe. It is the podcast that exists to prove that sequels... No, it exists to prove people wrong when they say that sequels are never better than the originals. My name is Micah Macaw.
Did you just burp as you said your name?
I did again. My name is Micah Macaw, and I'm not editing that out.
Okay. Jordan McCaw over here, not burping while I'm saying my name.
Yep, and we are married. We're coming up on our 3rd year completed of marriage.
Yep.
And we love movies. And today we are finishing up the series that finds a way, which is the Jurassic Park conglomerate.
And here's the question. Did it find a way?
I think it did find a way.
I think quantity, it's found a way. Quality, no.
It hasn't found a way, no. And I think this is the first series that we have covered outright where the first movie is undoubtedly the best and nothing comes close.
It was definitely solidified to me when you made me watch a YouTube essay about the ratios of the Jurassic Park movies.
The aspect ratios,
which is something I still don't quite get, but once you have visuals, it's like, I kind of know what he's talking about. But he's talking about basically the different aspect ratios that Spielberg uses to evoke what he wants out of the audience, and then what the other movies are failing to evoke. And my favorite thing that he said was, cinematography is not just how a movie's supposed to look, it's about... I think he said they're the two biggest important things about cinematography is what is the shot saying and how are you supposed to feel, or something. Oh yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's so good.
And then I watched it and I was like, cool. Well, this proves to me that none of the other movies should have ever been made.
Yeah, and I don't remember who did the
You should put the video link in the.
Oh yeah, I'll put the video link in the description on this, but. What's cool is he juxtaposes the first scene where they see the Brontosaurus in Jurassic Park. Mm-hmm. And the aspect ratio, I can't remember what it is, but it's basically like when you look at your screen, if you're watching Jurassic Park on a normal widescreen TV, you're going to have very little black bars on the top or bottom. I believe that's the letterbox. So you're going to have a very small letterbox, if any. Now, if you watch the new movies, there's a very large letterbox. And a rule of thumb that I used to think is like the wider, the better. The older I get, the more I watch movies, the more I realize that is just not true at all. It's just like each movie, you have to kind of look at it as its own thing. Because if you look at something like The Lighthouse, that movie has, I forgot what the sidebars are, but it's basically a square. And it makes it very claustrophobic, and it's horrifying. It's a really weird, scary movie, and if it was widescreen, it would not... if it was this aspect ratio that Jurassic Fallen Kingdom is in, it wouldn't be as dramatic, I don't think.
And to put it a little bit of a different way, because it's hard to talk about aspect ratio, because I don't think anyone really gets what that is, unless you're a filmmaker. But from how I understood it is Spielberg used very... intense angles. So like they're looking up at the dinosaur, the people are still in the frame, but they're like because of how the camera is angled, you're seeing how like much they have to crane their neck. When in like, for example, Fallen Kingdom, moment when is it the same dinosaur?
It's the same dinosaur. So they're kind of evoking like remember the wonder of Jurassic Park.
But in Fallen Kingdom, everyone is shot pretty much at eye level. Even when they're looking up at it. So I don't feel that's what I mean. We talked about this pretty much the whole series, especially in this last one, where like S hits the fan and it's just like, how come I don't care? Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way that it's done.
Absolutely.
Of course, and he did mention the video too, which I also very much agree with, where he's like, obviously one of the most glaring issues with most of these movies, besides the first one, is the script.
Absolutely.
Just so bad. But of course, he takes it further too, of like on a subliminal level, why it doesn't work either.
Yeah, well, because I guess we're gonna just hammer on this scene for a little while. That scene where you see the Brontosaurus in the first movie, it really evokes a feeling. Now, part of it is it's the first time you're seeing that, And once that cat is out of the bag, you can't put the cat back in the bag.
Yeah.
And so it's like the first time in cinema we had seen dinosaurs like that. It's the first time in the series that any of the characters had. You cannot undo that.
Yeah.
And they attempt to in this movie with the paleo vet that comes to the island with them. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'd never thought I'd see one. But again, they're shooting it at eye level. And then the framing and the blocking, this whole series, how much have I been saying? Spielberg is a master of blocking. So he knows how to composite a shot. Obviously, he's working with his great cinematographers as well. But in this movie, and he points out in that video too, you see the Brontosaurus, and most of the frame is filled up by this big, huge, ugly truck, and then two of our main characters, and then the Brontosaurus is taking up like a fourth of the frame, maybe.
And it's standing in front of a building that's like the same color.
Yeah.
So it's not even like standing out.
Yeah, and then when you look at the other one, it's like you see the people, and they're small. And it's just like this big epic scale. Those are all just very nerdy things.
Yeah.
But they make a huge difference. Because if this was made like with a better director, I think I would probably enjoy this movie a lot more.
And in the video too, when he mentions this other thing where I'm just like, I could never be a director. When he mentioned how early in the movie, Hammond is shot like at a higher angle. Like he's usually standing above people.
Oh, yeah.
And then at the moment in the movie, like when he's sitting down and eating ice cream, we now see him at a lower angle because he has been defeated.
Yeah.
And it is just like things like that. You should, as a viewer, never notice those things.
Unless you're studying it.
But you should feel those things.
Yeah.
Especially, and it's just so crazy. I just don't get how movies are made.
Yeah.
Because it's not just those decisions that the director makes and then the cinematographer, but then it's also the acting, obviously, goes into it.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, if anything, if you don't have a good foundation, most of it's going to be lost in translation anyway, like the script.
Right.
And what's interesting is how the first movie is so profound, but it's so simple.
Right.
And then every movie after, besides the third one, I would say, is so convoluted.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the third one is my favorite one after the first one, because it is so streamlined. Because, like you said, they've already taken the cat out of the bag. What more do we want? I just want to see people running away from dinosaurs.
Yeah, and this movie does have a lot of that.
It does.
And since I guess we're kind of front loading before we even get into the production stuff, but I know that a lot of people think like this movie is, and maybe I'm misrepresenting these people, but it seems like there's a portion of people that are like, okay, yes, the script's kind of bad, but it was fun, and it had this kind of haunted house element at the end of like the dinosaurs doing this house and stuff. But I hypothesized to you, I think what people were actually impressed with was it was the first time since the first movie that the dinosaurs were photographed in a different way. Mm-hmm. And so if you look at the scene of the haunted house or the beginning of the movie, the very first scene, which is actually an excellent scene.
Yes.
And then the scene where the that one weird dinosaur is going through that tube and the lava falls on it.
Yeah.
It's all shot with modern horror elements.
Yeah.
So like in the original, the T-Rex is shot with horror elements, but it's like it's an older style of horror that I think people are coming back around to a little bit more. You know what I mean? It's like it's not jumping out at you. It's not doing any of that. It's like you're seeing what's happening.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it's a little more like, oh, what was that?
Yeah.
What was that? And I think that is what impressed people, but actually it's just kind of like, but I don't think that makes the movie good.
No.
That they just photographed the dinosaurs a little bit different.
Yeah, because those are only a couple times. Unfortunately, when like in the first movie, going back to the video, he mentions that the first movie is a horror movie disguised as an adventure movie.
Yeah.
Which is true, because that movie is so terrifying. Which is like, okay, so I think of the third movie, which is the closest one to the first one in terms of that stuff. Uh-huh. It's not a horror. It's not scary to me though. It's just thrilling.
Yeah, it's much more adventure.
Much more adventure based. It's also at this point, I mean, pretty much after the first movie, I just genuinely don't care who would live or die at this point.
Right.
Because it's like, Sam Neill, you shouldn't even have said yes to do this movie, but here you are.
Yeah.
Fine, we'll take it. Same with Malcolm and Laura Dern. So it's just like, anyway.
So, Before we are kind of front loading here. Here is what I realized is the problem with the sequels from the first movie on. This is what is like my one bullet point sentence that I can tell people. The basic problem with the franchise is this. Jurassic Park was a philosophical drama that happened to have some action. The rest of the movies are action movies that happen to have some philosophy. Mm-hmm. You agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I worked hard on that, Jordan. I was hoping you'd be like, wow. But you're like, okay, yeah.
It's great. Sorry for not having a great reaction.
It's okay. So let's get into the production a little bit. The movie is directed by J.A. Bayona, who directed A Monster Calls, some episodes of Penny Dreadful, The Impossible, and The Orphanage. The Orphanage is a horror movie, and that is how he got the job. We'll get back to that in a second, though. It's produced by Frank Marshall, Patrick Crowley, and Belen Atienza. Frank Marshall and Patrick are people that we've talked about in previous episodes, and then Belen has produced all of this director's work, among some other stuff. It's written by Derek Connolly and Colin Trevorrow, same people who wrote Jurassic World. The music is Giacchino, which I actually, for the most part, dug the music in this movie. Cinematography is Oscar Farah, who did Imitation Game and then this director's other work as well.
Okay.
Which Imitation Game I remember being a pretty visually good, like, that's a good cinematography movie.
I don't really remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. The movie comes out June 22nd, 2018, and it has a budget of $170 million to the $187 million range. Domestically, the movie makes $417, almost $418 million, and then worldwide it makes $1.3 billion. So, Trevorrow wanted Boyana because of The Orphanage, as I already said, and then the director was excited by the haunted house prospect of the movie, and a lot of the movie was just unused ideas from Jurassic 4 draft.
Okay.
Like an older draft. And then this is a big pet peeve of mine. A big pet peeve of mine, because I think it's so supremely stupid. So in an interview, Trevorrow compared the movie to The Empire Strikes Back and Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which he considers both darker than their predecessors. And it's just that stupid thing that directors say anytime they make a sequel where they're like, yeah, we were really going for like a Godfather Part 2 or a Empire Strikes Back.
Get that chip off your shoulder.
It's like, just don't compare yourself to those movies, because we already know that they are, whether you agree or not, considered better than the first movie. And we all know that when you make a sequel, you are trying to make it better than the first movie. So stop comparing it to The Empire Strikes Back. I think it's so stupid. And this movie shows like no similarities to either of those movies. So it's like, why did you bring them up?
Yeah.
Now, do you wish we could have watched the original cut of this movie, Jordan?
Don't care.
Because maybe it could have cleared up some stuff, because the original cut of the movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes. And that's all I have. That's really all I have.
So one of the first actors that's new in this movie is Rafe Spall. I don't know if that's how you say his name. It's R-A-F-E. That's Rafe, right? He is in The Big Short, Life of Pi, Hot Fuzz. That's big things he's in. Then we have Justice Smith, who's in Detective Pikachu, as well as Paper Towns, The Get Down, and he's a rising young star.
Yeah, I think he's really charming in Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, he's good.
I think he's really good in that movie.
Daniela Pineda. She is in Vampire Diaries, the originals.
Gotta open those diaries. Lot to say in there.
She's in a lot of TV shows, from what it looks like. And then James Cromwell from Babe, the farmer from Babe.
Oh,
everybody.
Yeah.
He's also in The Green Mile, apparently.
Oh, he's the guy, isn't he? He's the
warden?
The warden who isn't he?
I'm thinking of Shawshank, so you're probably right.
And he cures him of the. No, wait.
No, that's Tom Hanks.
His wife dies, and then he brings his wife back to life because she has the cancer.
Wow, I just remember him in the movie at all.
I don't either. I'm just assuming because I don't know who else he could be in that movie.
He's also in LA Confidential, Star Trek. Well,
you said what
First
we love him
Contact.
from?
Babe. Oh, and he's in Succession. He's Ewan Roy.
He's
a salty old man.
Folks, that's the best show on TV currently. That and Better Call Saul. So if you need a recommendation, Succession is the best.
Yeah. And then Ted Levine or Levine, I don't know. It probably depends on what he likes to say. He is in Silence of the Lambs. Shocked? He's also in Monk, the Alienist.
He's the killer in Silence of the Lambs, you said?
Yes.
Which once you said that, I could hear that like...
It's in his voice. He kind of looks different in every movie I've seen him in. Like in anything.
Yeah. I've only seen Silence once, so it's pretty hard for me to remember
it. Again. It's been so long.
Hey, there's a few of those movies.
I know. Well, is that part of... So are those like actually all part of a canon?
Yeah, I think there's 4 or 5 that are like...
But they're
considered the series.
They're pretty serialized, right? That means we would get to cover Red Dragon.
Well, one of them has, I think, 1 or 2 more have Jodie Foster in them.
But does that mean we would get to cover Red Dragon?
Yeah, it would be Red Dragon, Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Rising, I think, was the last one, which was like his prequel origin story.
Played by...
Which sounds really bad.
I have to look that up.
And then I think there's one more. And we could also maybe consider covering the Michael Mann movie, Manhunter, which came out before Silence of the Lambs, where it has our boy from Succession, Brian Cox, is Hannibal Lecter in that movie.
Really?
Yeah. That could be a fun series. If you want us to cover that, folks, please let us know, because I think that would be really interesting, because that is far different from anything else that we've covered. So
I would love to do the Hannibal stuff.
I think that'd be fun. I think that'd be really fun.
As a kid, obviously I couldn't watch these movies as a kid. It's too terrifying. I mean, it's so terrifying that I didn't even let my kids watch it for a long time, because these movies are definitely horror, but it has a dark element to it that is just a little too palpable, I feel like.
Yeah.
I don't know I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon, and like parts of the Hannibal movies, so I'm mostly speaking about the first 2.
Yeah.
And there is something about them that like really get under your skin.
Yeah.
Really, really, really. And I would love to read the book someday.
Yeah.
Need to.
So according to IMDb, just for the record, Manhunter, followed by Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, Red Dragon, Hannibal Rising, and then the TV show, which we wouldn't cover, obviously. Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah. So.
Anyway, this guy... He is in Monk, like I said, which is probably my biggest identifying thing.
Oh, this is the Ted Levine character?
Yes.
Okay.
He's the chief, police chief.
Okay.
And if you've not seen Monk, I have very fond memories of it. I have no idea what it's like now. But I remember being very funny in it, and you look at him and it's like, that man needs to have a mustache.
Now, who is he in this movie?
The Hunter.
Oh, this is the same guy we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I got lost.
Yeah, he's like a guy that needs a mustache. And
Yeah.
I just saw a picture of him in The Alienist, and he's got a sweet mustache, man.
That the Monk to me is, I've never seen a full episode, but it is man who doesn't like germs has to solve crimes. That's what I imagine the show is.
Oh, but of course, because it is, a police procedural drama, he's the one case he's never been able to solve.
Is like his wife's murder or something.
No, that's exactly it. So it is very by the numbers.
These poor wives, they just get murdered willy-nilly all the time.
Yeah.
It's almost like that is like a trope. Almost. What's funny is, which is pointed out so much, and I adore Christopher Nolan, but he has so many dead wives on his hands, it's insane.
So many that everyone talks about it.
Yeah. So many that the joke is like, I hope his wife's okay.
Yeah.
But is that everything?
Yeah.
Oh, so do you want to jump in?
Yeah.
Okay. So the movie starts, and it's stormy, and we are at the location of the Lost World Park. And it says Isla Nublar, 120 miles off the coast of Costa Rica. And Jordan goes, "Oh, I'm so sick of reading that." And they open up the gates. It's like flooded and stuff like that. And
it is? No, that dinosaur was pulled into the water at the end of the last movie. That's why its bones are down there.
Oh, you're right. I was just thinking of the rain and stuff. Anyway, and we go in there, and I think this scene is like, I remember, the first time I saw this was in theaters, and when I came home, I ranted to Jordan for like an hour, and she had to get up at like 5:30, and I ranted till like 1 o'clock.
Not only that, I've heard him rant about it several other times.
Yeah, I find it supremely infuriating of a movie. So they go in, and you see like a shadow of the Mosasaurus, and there's a lot of pretty intense like horror-themed modern horror tropes that they're playing on. But you're in water, and they're extracting something from the Indominus Rex bones. And, I mean, when I was in theaters, I was like, what the heck? Is this going to rule?
Yeah.
Because this is a cool intro to the movie.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if I gave it that much. I pretty much went into the movie wanting to dislike it.
Oh.
Because I was like, come on.
Well, because you're just done with it, like everyone else. Well, like me. I'll speak for myself.
Yeah. So you looked like you were going to say something.
No.
Okay, so I'll just keep talking.
It's a very intense scene, like you've said, and then cut to Bryce Dallas Howard. No, Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum. Oh, I gotta talk about this. So I really think they did a stupid thing on this. They publicized that Jeff Goldblum has signed on to be in the next movie. Yeah. Fans of the series like the original cast. I don't think they should be in any of the other movies for the most part. But, that's what fans want. So they're like, Jeff Goldblum's in this one. And then all the trailers show him in the courtroom, like saying all the things over the footage. And basically the trailers had all of his stuff, like the entire everything that he said. And when you watch the movie, it was like, oh, brother, this should have been such a slam dunk cameo that you can keep the same line, same thing, and he shows up, and then everyone's like, what? He's in this? Because it actually makes sense that he's in it. But it's like, don't put that as your marketing campaign. Don't make that like one of the things that attracts people to come. Because I think that's just like so annoying to the audience.
Totally.
So go ahead.
The premise is pretty interesting. He's there in front of a court. Well, I don't know. The suits and the dinosaurs on the Jurassic World island, if I'm correct, a volcano has reignited and it's going to destroy it's going to destroy all the dinosaurs on it. So it's that whole ethical question of, do we save them or do we let them go extinct a second time?
Yeah.
And people are arguing, well, they were extinct in the first place. It's just nature correcting what we've done.
Yeah.
Which is like interesting, but then it's like, they are animals, they have rights. Interesting.
Yeah.
And then cut to Bryce Dallas Howard, right? Am I right?
Well, can I say like two more things? One, during that whole news sequence where they're telling you what's going on, they do a nice jab at Trump that I thought was funny, where at the, what is that called? At the bottom of the news screen?
Side scroller.
The side scroller thing. It says like, President questions very existence of dinosaurs in the first place, or something like that, which is 100% a jab at Mr. Old D. And Mr. D. And then the other thing is, in a very small way, I did get my dream of the sequel of a Jurassic Park movie being a legal drama.
For like 2 seconds.
I know, but I'm giving it credit for at least getting me some legal jargon.
Okay.
But not really.
Good for you for the 2 seconds it happened. And I think they cut back one other time. Yeah. So now we see Bryce Dallas Howard in a very urban, fun office setting that every millennial dreams to work in. It's just so collaborative.
It's so cool.
It just seems like really open and like really outgoing and fun, and like anyone's ideas are accepted. No one's told no.
Yeah.
She walks into here and we learn very quickly that they're pretty much animal activists, that they're advocating to save the dinosaurs. So they're trying to figure out a way. And then you might be wondering to yourself, wait, I say that again? And then, they kind of hammer you over the head with what's going on. And you're like, so Bryce Dallas Howard at the end, in the last movie, she was a corporate person.
Yeah.
At Jurassic World. High up corporate person.
Yeah.
She ran everything. Then everything went wrong. And she's, surviving and running for her life. And the last movie did not communicate that she liked dinosaurs. It was just her job. By the end of the movie...
They actually went out of their way to communicate she does not like
She called them assets. She didn't even call them dinosaurs.
Yes.
By the end of the movie...
She called them asses.
Sure. By the end of that movie... her character does not change in any visual, obvious way that's like, oh, she respects them and likes them now. So she, barely
is 100% a different character than the previous movie.
It totally is. And so in this movie, she's like in charge of trying to get the dinosaurs out. And it's like, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't
make
work.
any sense.
Also, for most of this movie, it's her staring up into the sun.
I wish listeners
or the sun
you could
is
see
beaming
Jordan
down on
doing
her wide doe eyes as she's talking to a man. And it's just like, ah. And then throughout the rest of this movie, as they're they're running from dinosaurs again, blah, blah, blah. Wow, I get to see her boobs a lot more than I did in the last movie, I even feel like. And it is so annoying. And I know this is like something that we talk about a lot, probably too much. But it's just like so frustrating that it's a big franchise. And if you look at the first three movies, which I mentioned, I know I'm going on a rant right now.
Yeah.
But the first three movies, you have Laura Dern, Julianne Moore, and Téa Leoni.
Yes.
I would argue that they're all just like fine. They're
not sexualized.
They're
as far
characters
as I can
in
tell.
a story.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to overanalyze if they actually do anything or not.
Yeah.
But
that's a
it's
good
like
point.
they're not over sexualized. I would even say that a lot, like most of the time, they're just not at all.
Yeah.
Because in Jurassic World, as they're running away from dinosaurs, Bryce Dallas Howard is like just eventually wearing less.
Yeah.
And the other movies, the women, as they are running away from dinosaurs through the jungle, they're just sopping like baggy clothes, sopping wet from rain or muddy.
And
but they're not
actually,
wearing less of anything.
In the first movie, the person who loses the most amount of clothing is Jeff Goldblum, who is a man.
And no one's complaining about that, right?
Right.
So it's just super frustrating that it just keeps happening. And it will probably just continue to happen.
Yeah. It is very like... because, you look at the male characters in this, and they have the same amount of clothes throughout the whole thing, in both movies. And it's just kind of like, you might be like, you guys are really overanalyzing this, or it's not that big of a deal. But it is like, why did they have to make that decision? I think that's what you're questioning. Am I right?
Yeah.
It's like, why did the one quote unquote strong female character, although now they have, I think they're up to a grand total of 2 in the Jurassic World series now with the paleo vet. Why does that person have to lose clothing throughout the movie?
Yeah, and why does that girl not get to lose anything if she?
Well, I'm thankful that they kept some clothes on.
Does that kind of make sense though? I know that she doesn't like go through much or anything, but it's just like, okay, so Bryce Dallas Howard is the main protagonist, so we're supposed to feel this way about her. Let's do it that way. When like the other woman character of any importance is just like normal. Yeah. And oh man, what else was I gonna say? I lost it, but I'll think of it. But it's just I don't know. It's just frustrating, and I'm tired of it. Oh, and the ending of this podcast, we're talking about how does anyone make a movie because of how much thought goes into it. Yeah. So that these things, no one can pull the card of like, well, it's just, no one really thinks about that kind of stuff. I'm telling you people do because of what we've been talking about this whole time. And then I'm done. Right. I'm done. We can continue talking about the movie. I'm just done with it. Yeah. Well, and what's one last thing, I guess, the funny thing about us covering franchises is that's arguably where it might happen the most. Yeah, because this is like the mainstream. So you got to like sex it up a little bit. Yeah. I feel like is maybe a studio note. Mm-hmm. Like, and hopefully that'll turn around, Yeah. And I think maybe it wouldn't even be that big of a deal if Bryce Dallas Howard in either movie was much of a character. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like it just, again, I said this in the last movie, but Bryce Dallas Howard is such a
girl that was written by a guy character.
Yeah.
It's like it's like the guys didn't even talk to a girl.
Yeah.
That's as far now again, I'm a man, Jordan, you are not. So maybe you can confirm or deny what I'm saying.
The only way I could speak to that is both of these movies just don't have much of a script at all.
Yeah.
It's just like Chris Pratt's doing an Indiana Jones impression.
Oh, I was going to do that. I'm the one who said that.
Okay, well, I'll let you.
No, that's fine.
But it's just full of tropes. It's just whoever wrote the movies probably had a quick idea, not quick, but they probably had like, oh, that's a really interesting idea, them auctioning off dinosaurs. How do we work that into a movie?
Right.
And then it's like they spend way too much time on this one idea without even like fleshing anything else out. Because it's like, if anything, because of the first movie, I'm assuming they're trying to provide some kind of realism to these movies.
Yeah.
Because the first movie is pretty real. So they don't like flesh anyone out.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it feels like a lot of the ideas and stuff in all of the sequels, it feels like if I'm writing a song with a band or something like that, or we're working together on a song or I'm sending it, I might go, it'd be cool. In my head, I go, it'd be cool if the guitar part was in 7/4 time and the rest of the song was in 4/4 time. I come up with a riff and everyone's like, that sounds weird. I don't like it. Can you like make it not sound like that?
Yeah.
And there is the like, well, you can just keep on pushing it until it like works, or maybe you edit. And then it's like there's so many of those like, oh, this would be cool, this would be cool, this would be cool. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't say, like, it doesn't form anything at the end of the day.
And I'm sure, one, there's just, I would say, lack of talent in terms of the script writing, but I'm sure there is also the studio pressure of like just getting it done.
Well, these feel very studio films.
Yeah, like whether or not whatever version of the script they did have, I'm sure is vastly different from how like at the end.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it always gets to a point where they just need to start shooting.
Yeah.
So.
And, okay. So we talked about that a little bit. So basically we have Hammond's brother. I think it's his brother. I actually got confused by that. But I just missed one line.
They like worked together. They like started this idea together.
It's such a classic like sequel thing where it's like Hammond had this other guy because Hammond died a long time ago. He had this other guy, and now he's gonna be the heir of the throne or whatever. And you're like, okay, yeah, pretty much he inherits or something. But then it's like the reason why we might have never seen him in previous movies is because he, they had a falling out.
They had a falling out. Oh, what's it over? We'll find out later.
Yeah, and we keep seeing this little girl throughout the movie, and the camera keeps being like, you gotta pay attention to this little girl. And oh boy, I'm gonna lay into that scene when we get to it. So basically, they need to send a rescue mission, and they do the exact part of the plot of Lost World where they're like, hey, we need you to go check out these dinosaurs, and then the hunters turn on them. Yeah. Which is like, oh, what? You're replicating like a movie that people don't like that much?
Yeah.
Like, what are you thinking? But they go and they find Owen Grady, played by Chris Pratt. And in this movie, he's doing the squint eyes. Mm-hmm. And as Jordan said, he is... I watch the movie and look at how Chris Pratt is acting and the things that they're putting him in. My joke is that the screenwriters / the director were like, hey, this is a sequel to one of Steven Spielberg's most successful franchises. Let's watch it and study it. And then they got confused about which franchise because this movie is so Indiana Jonesy, and it shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. Because I love Chris Pratt, but he is not Harrison Ford. He's not even close to that like level of charm. Chris Pratt has this nice sarcastic chip on his shoulder that they don't use in these movies, which is insane to me.
For a franchise movie, it's like you want to lay into something like that.
Lay into it. And it's not like... it's just crazy because he can do that, but him being like, they're trying to make him Indiana Jones where he's, oh yeah, that's kind of interesting and different, and I don't like that thing, but he's also an action hero, and I just don't buy it for 1 second. And this movie is putting him in these situations where like lava is surrounding him, and then he has to like crawl away in a sequence that's funny, I guess. and then like jump a car into a boat and stuff. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning.
She does that, but yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to what I said at the beginning, though. It's like this is an action movie that has some philosophy, not a philosophical movie with action.
Yeah.
It is like so infuriating. So what do you want to say about the island before I rip this microphone apart?
There are dinosaurs there still. The volcano. I thought it was kind of funny because, they could have put the volcano anywhere because we've never really known about it until now. And I think it's just kind of funny that they put it right where they needed to be to like do the computer stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, so you're going to the island like right as it's erupting, but you need to go to that control room. Yeah. Maybe just forget about it.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of look at it as.
Yeah.
But it's also like, Jordan, don't go there.
Right.
But then it's also like, this is the fifth movie.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm at this point.
Yeah. And in this sequence, they're trying to get Chris Pratt's Velociraptor, and he has to like help, and then they turn on him, and then he tranquilizes him, and then they have to get on the boat, and there's all this nonsense that they have to do. I think the dinosaur attacking Bryce Dallas Howard and Justin Smith, did you say?
Justice
Smith in the control room is kind of a cool sequence, kind of fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense that lava falls on a dinosaur and it doesn't immediately kill the dinosaur. But hey, whatever.
Hey, they're not real dinosaurs.
I mean, they threw out realism when... the second one was still kind of realistic. I feel like the fourth one is when they kind of forgot about realism. And again, movies don't have to be realistic, but when your first movie is, you have to follow that template unless you're just like totally revamping it or something. I don't know. But anyway, that sequence is kind of cool. I like the dinosaurs that are more like crocodile and alligator inspired looking.
Yeah.
Because I like crocodiles and alligators. I just think that they're real dinosaurs that live. And we've seen some in New Orleans.
Him, not me.
Yeah, it was a family trip, and it was way cool seeing wild alligators swimming around.
It was pre-marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get it in there in time. Yeah, so then there's a scene where where Bryce and Justice get in the glass ball that falls in the water.
Yeah.
That's filling up with water. And it's interesting because it is shot like a one shot.
Yeah, it's obviously fake, but doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. What did you think of the one shot?
I thought it was cool. I mean, it's cool. They did something. They did something different instead of cutting like 17 million times in one scene. But it is, I mean, it's just at this point, I just don't feel anything because I know that none of them are going to die. Because they don't even convey to me that the kid's going to die. Yeah. I think pretty early on, you can kind of like, he's too witty to die. Like they're still going to need him to make a joke later on.
Yeah.
So it just is like, yeah, that was pretty interesting and pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's just we've probably, because of doing a podcast, have watched the movies all way too close together.
Yeah.
So I just don't really care.
Yeah, and my question is, I mean, we all like one-shots. They're a very cool and effective tool. But when I was watching it, I was just like, why? Like, what was at the beginning we talked about like making sure that you have purpose in your shot. And what were they trying to communicate by doing a one shot? Because, okay, it's really intense, it's really disorienting, and they could die soon. That to me is like, oh, this maybe should have more cuts because it's like disorienting and they could die really soon.
But if you think about it, I mean, in a way, I'm in this franchise specifically, I'm conditioned not to think that any of them are going to die. Yeah. Because Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum went there twice and they didn't die. Yeah. So why should these main characters die? Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about it. And I'm not like necessarily faulting the other ones, and I mean, yeah, I kind of am, but like also it's like not saying that it's wrong that they didn't die, because even in like the first movie, yeah, of course people died, but it's like it was definitely a life or death situation. Yeah. But it didn't feel like it was a what is it called? Like everyone's dying one by one type of thing. Right. That's not like the kind of survivalist kind of movie. That's not the kind of movie that is. Or, gosh, I can't talk anymore. I think about, okay, we're talking about the ball scene,
And I think if you look at the Steven Spielberg directed movies, the use of sound and like the building of tension, like when Sarah in Lost World is on the glass in the RV and it starts to break, that's when your brain is like, no,
Yeah.
no. And in this movie, it is completely devoid of that. It relies on the current horror filming, which that was a cool idea. I don't think they really like go all the way with it. Like that idea would work really well if it was a movie you didn't know was Jurassic Park and there was people getting attacked by dinosaurs and they figured it out in the movie. That would be kind of insane. But
well, it's like in that video, one thing that he mentions that the first movie sets the table for really is the movie's about being still.
Oh yeah.
When I think the argument
cool.
he was making that because he's looking at it through a lens of kind of a horror movie, which is a lot of it's just running away, which of course these movies are too. But in the first movie, it's very clear, like, don't move, because if you move, the T-Rex can find you.
Yeah.
And then in the second movie, they do the same thing, like, because they showed the scene of Julianne Moore above the glass, and she's not supposed to move, which raises the tension through the roof.
And you also know what's at stake, and you know, like, what they should and shouldn't do. So if I ask you, what should they do and not do in this movie, you go, they need to run, and they can outrun dinosaurs now. That's not, there's no tension there.
No.
I mean, if they're like trapped in a room and they have to do something specific with that dinosaur, now you have tension all of a sudden. It's like there's a loaded bomb, whereas each time it's like, oh, there's a bomb and it's rolling toward me and I can outrun it.
Yeah.
So it's it's like, okay, I guess. So then let's move on. There is I called him Owen is Mr. Squints as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
That's kind of fun. There's the lava scene and then the gyroscope. Okay. There is a scene where Bryce Dallas Howard says, and I quote, "It was a lie. It was all a lie. Bastard."
I know. It was really bad. It was just like, cool. Well, if I wasn't checked out before, I am sure checked out now.
Yeah, and I think that was like, it was performed in the way I just said it. So let's talk about the hunter. I want to talk about the hunter.
Yeah.
So when they are loading up the dinosaurs, he walks over to a Stegosaurus, which looked practical. It looked like an animatronic and looked really cool. And he pulls out pliers. He goes, whooshing. And then he pulls out a tooth, and he's like, and right then and there, I'm like, oh, brother. The first time I saw it, I'm like, they are just setting up. You're just like, no. They're setting up for him to release a dinosaur because of a tooth. That is so stupid. And then, of course, when we get to the end of the movie, and there's the Indoraptor, which we haven't even touched on yet, and he walks in going, after everyone's fled and they've been attacked by dinosaurs, he goes, "I want to get paid. Where's my bonus?" You're like, what? And then he opens up the cage and he puts the pliers on the tooth and he goes, "This is going to look great on my necklace." So he is motivated by creating a necklace similar to a puka shell necklace. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's not great.
That's insane. And then it kills him and gets out because he wanted to make his puka shell necklace. I think that is insane. And you know what? I will admit that part of me saying all this is I wanted to say puka.
Yeah, sure.
So that's what I wanted to say about the hunter.
It's too much. I was going to say too, I think comparing it to the first movie is like one thing that I really like about the first movie is it is purely them just trying to get away from dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Because there's even a hunter in that movie, but he's not a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's just like a rough guy. So it is like Spielberg really sets it up where it's just the humans against the dinosaurs. Second movie, now there are bad guys too, which is it makes it way too complicated. And then the third movie, it goes back to the dinosaurs against humans a little bit, but remember his Sam Neill's friend betrays them pretty much by stealing the eggs. Like he makes a really dumb call.
Yeah.
Which is that to me is one of the dumbest parts of the movie.
Yeah.
And then the next movie, it's it's a reboot. They're taking some things to a next level, which are some pretty interesting ideas.
Yeah.
But it's a lot about capitalism. So how do we make more money? Because the park's already been open, which is a pretty interesting idea. It's just not executed very well. This movie, it's just back to the whole like, yeah, there are dinosaurs, but there's also just a lot of scumbags too.
Yeah.
And it's just like this franchise does not need guardsmen with tasers. We already have enough of those in other movies like that.
Yeah, you're so right.
So it's like, why do they have to like fight their way around these guys when they're already trying to not die from dinosaurs?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point.
And I think that, but I don't, how they got there. It's just because of poor writing.
Uh-huh.
But I guess that's where I'm ending that.
Yeah. I think one, it's weird looking back on the series because that's what happens. We get to the end of our series and it's like, what is this last movie? This is what I think, at least. I'm like, what does this last movie tell us about like summing up the whole series? And it's weird that like everybody watched Jurassic Park and they looked at the hunter, the clever girl guy, and everyone's like, yeah, we need that type of person in every movie, and that explored more. Out of all the things, because it's like Owen is a version of him, the military guys are all versions of him, and then you have like actual hunters. And I think in the second movie, it makes sense to touch on that, but to continue to be like, we need a hunter in this movie. It's like, why are you latching on to the hunter?
Yeah.
I know that theoretically makes sense, but it would make more sense to maybe save that for Jurassic World Dominion, where there's dinosaurs in our world.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very weird.
It really
thing.
just needs to be as simple as you can possibly make it, which is just dinosaurs against humans.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're right in saying, because I'm always like, how can we fix this franchise and all that stuff. And I think you're so right in it just is a series that to maintain its like purity, it cannot have a sequel. And that also brings full force like the whole idea behind Jurassic Park is we've gone too far. So if they had stopped, that is like you have had your statement and that's like holy crap, that's what you're saying and you're sticking to that. That's insane.
Yeah. And I will say, of course, the first movie does have a bad guy. It's Newman.
Yeah.
But of course, his role is just like it's a planting the seed kind of bad guy thing because it is really just about the dinosaurs.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Indoraptor. Now, Livia was in our last episode, and she said that the scientist did not return in this one, and she wanted to make sure that was corrected. Because he does return in this movie.
In the same turtleneck.
Same turtleneck.
In several scenes, the same turtleneck.
And
I love turtlenecks.
I also think I know that they're trying to make these points about like capitalism corrupting people, and I get that. But it is kind of odd to me that they were like, okay, we got this guy back from the very first movie. Let's take a lead scientist, and let's make him like a bad guy who does bad things. Like, I would think he would be the guy in the control room in Jurassic World to be like, we've gone too far. This is not good.
Yeah, that actually would be pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah, or maybe he even, like, in this movie, he's trying to, like, sabotage these dinosaurs, like, be an inside man or something. But it's, like, it's weird to me that he's just kind of a villain. And I think it's a waste of his character.
You could absolutely take out his character, and it provides no change to the story.
Except for to, like, continue it on, like... Well, no, but
you're right. They could just say our scientists created a new dinosaur. You don't need a person to say. You don't need a person to represent that.
But it's funny to me that they're like, we need to make another new dinosaur, and it's like, really? That was the trick in the last movie, and you didn't make that point fully. So why are you trying to make it
to weaponize it, Micah?
And that okay. I'm sorry, Jordan. You've heard these rants so many times. And I did not look into this, but they make the point, like, throughout history, animals have, like, been such an integral part of war, and man is destined for war always. Okay, that's interesting. It's made in about every single movie that's an action movie, but okay, whatever. You want to go with that. I don't think that animals are that integral to war anymore. Am I wrong? I know that we use them for research, and I know that, you might use a camel to get you somewhere, or you might, like, ride a horse or something, but it's not like... It's not like if you had a dinosaur, you would win a war. One dinosaur. It's like, okay, you have one dinosaur. Let's just do a sting operation and murder it.
I mean,
like, what are you talking about?
From my understanding, no animal has won war.
Well, I feel like there's something with elephants in like an old, like centuries old war.
Oh, one time?
Well, I think if you were the first people to like use horses in war, you're gonna win the war now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's like back then. You're innovating.
The point
you're innovating to a point where you don't even like you get past that.
Because at a certain point, animals became technology.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so now you have this Indoraptor, which is trained to attack a specific point.
And they did mention that it is basically genetically modified to be able to figure out complicated situations, which would make sense why it can like figure out the house.
Yeah, we'll get to that too.
Yeah.
But, well, here's what I will say. I think the Indoraptor looks really cool.
Sure.
I like that it's a black dinosaur, which is like kind of striking. It's like, and I think it's like gold too or something.
It's got like a gold stripe.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And I do kind of like how its hands are very like monkey and human-esque, how it can like grab things, you know?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it grabs those horns.
Yeah.
It has like opposable thumbs basically, which is kind of fun. I mean, I think it's ridiculous in a Jurassic Park movie, but I think it's kind of fun. And another thing that I'll say, you put 5 really cheesy lines in this movie that makes you know that they're not taking this seriously, and I probably love the movie. And you don't attach it to Jurassic Park, and you just have like Sylvester Stallone do some weird cameo, and it's like, this is kind of a badass, cool movie that has like stupid action, and actually it's kind of good. But they don't do that. So the Indoraptor, I just don't get that motivation. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. It would make more sense. I think I'm boring you. I can see it in your eyes, but I'm sorry. But I got to do it for the people. It would make a little more sense, I think, if they were like just selling to people like a Joe Exotic. Mm-hmm. Like selling dinosaurs for like little museums around the world or something like that.
I don't think that's very exciting though.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem. But it came out before Tiger King. If Tiger King had come out before they wrote this movie, it might be a totally different movie because they might be like, we haven't gone on this angle, selling exotic animals. You get your legal
drama that way.
Oh yeah, that's what I want. Do you have anything? I've been talking so much, it seems.
No.
I'm barreling this episode. So let's talk about the auction then.
Okay.
They sell the dinosaurs for anywhere from like $8 to $30 million each.
It's a bargain in that auction.
Which blows my mind. This movie just defies you to find the logic in it. Because are you serious? You're telling me that like you can buy a dinosaur for less than the price of mini homes? Like you couldn't buy a home in Ashland for that price. I don't know that for sure. But still, that is so insane to me that you could buy one dinosaur, something that's been extinct, for $10 million or so. And it's all these people who are like black market dealers. They have more money than $10 million. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, I guess they know that they don't have to pay that much. They don't have to pay more than what people are bidding for.
Well, and it's such a weird... Things like that really drive me nuts in scripts because it's like, okay, let's start the bidding at $1 million. Wouldn't you think they'd be like, $1 million, $2 million, and then someone would stand up...
Know your worth.
Yeah, and someone would stand up and be like, $50 million.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, 60, 70. And then, because the guy's like sitting on the computer and he's like, oh, we're up to 20 million. And of course, that's a ton of money for me. But the amount that they sell the dinosaurs wouldn't even pay for the making of this movie.
And you know what's crazy to me is they had the time to insert a character who's in the auction who's just some Russian guy who apparently they really want him to pay for something, like a big dinosaur. So then when they wheel out the Indoraptor, whatever thing, the camera like cuts to him. And it's like, who am I? This is like one of the most forgettable faces I've ever seen. Who is this? I don't know. And he's Russian. Okay, so I don't like him because of movies. I am conditioned to not like Russian people now.
Right, and isn't that and we do like Russian people.
No, we
for
do.
The
I'm
record.
just thinking of Cold War
Yeah.
stuff.
But if I'm correct, I think they're like, oh, here's this guy, and maybe he's not from Russia. He's definitely from Eastern
I think
Europe.
they say he's from Russia. I think
Okay.
they say that.
And then they're like he's brutal or something. Don't they say something like that?
They
where
say
it's like,
something.
come on,
Yeah.
come on, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, oh man, come on.
This episode's getting off the rails. Who's listening still?
I think people are probably like, this is what I'm here for, baby.
I hope.
So they do all of that. And, Bryce and Owen are like captured and they use a dinosaur to help them out in a very like Indiana Jones-esque way, which is like, what movie am I watching at this point? And Hammond's or what is his name again? It's not Hammond. But
I don't know.
The
Babe,
farmer,
the guy from Babe.
Yeah, the farmer from Babe gets murdered, and then the little daughter finds out that she's a clone.
Yeah.
Now, we got to talk about the clone in the room, which could be a new elephant in the room phrase.
And which could be any one of us.
Now, the clone is put in this movie. Now, if they were going to make a point about the clone, say something about cloning, they don't make a message
the closest thing they do to it is he's looking at a picture with, I think the old woman might be in the room. And they're, or not even that. I think they're just talking about his mother and how she just looks exactly like his mother.
Yeah.
Like spit and image exactly. Like they really lay it on thick.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, but I know, but the movie itself, by the end, when you know she's a clone, what is the message they're saying about the clone? And
the only thing that they're claiming is that's the whole reason Hammond and him split up is because he wanted to study cloning humans.
Right.
That's it.
But they don't say like that is bad, that is good. It means
it just
it doesn't.
Is.
It just is. And not every movie has to have an explanation. That is not what I'm arguing. But this is a series that is built upon science fiction, where the whole quandary is like, should we have made dinosaurs and cloned dinosaurs? So if you add that to humans, I think that's an insanely fascinating idea. An idea that could warrant an entire sequel that has nothing to do with dinosaurs, but is connected to the series and is all about human cloning.
So do you think the only reason they created this character was so that someone, you're already nodding.
Yes.
So that someone would have
I was going to say this,
the
actually.
motivation to press the button.
That's exactly why they did it, which is one of those things that I say a lot. You could put it on a t-shirt. It just feels written. It does not feel natural. You can make a shirt, like you said, whenever we get enough people that want merch that says, and so the movie begins, and then on the back it could say, it just feels so written. That would be my shirt. I'm not sure what yours would be yet. Yours would probably be like, check that hair, baby, or something like that.
Okay.
Because you're always talking about girl hair and guy hair.
Yeah.
Merch not coming soon. We got to work on it. So I just think the clone angle, I mean, really could have been a whole sequel, but it's just wasted so that she has the motivation to let the dinosaurs out and say, if they exist, or I exist, and so do they. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, you're kidding me. You are kidding me with that justification for letting dinosaurs go out into the mainland of the United States of America. So I just think that's wild. Now, the Indoraptor escapes, and it is tearing up through the house. The action sequences are decent. I'm a little, bored at this point, but I don't want to, discredit these scenes. I think they're shot pretty well. I think they're pretty effective. But what just defies logic, again, is at the end, when they're in the the dinosaurs are getting out of their cages, and they're attacking all the people, and everyone runs out. So now all of a sudden, the dinosaur's like, let me switch it up because I'm chasing a little girl and I think I should be scary to her. So I'm going to be quiet now. It's like, what are you talking about? You were just rampaging. If it got out and was like a scared beast or...
Maybe it's playing.
I don't know. It doesn't make... And it even walks up, and it's cool imagery. Doesn't make sense at all for the story where it reaches out its fingernail and...
Well, that's for the trailer.
Yeah, it honestly is.
That wasn't the trailer, I think.
It was, yeah. And then they defeat it by Bryce Dallas Howard. They're standing on a roof. Somehow this 2-ton dinosaur is not falling down the roof, even though it steps onto glass that it also walks on in other parts of the scene, and the glass breaks. So they're already telling you, like...
It's learned. It can change its body mass.
But then Bryce Dallas Howard pulls up the gun, points it at Chris Pratt, puts the laser on him, and they share a knowing, like, oh, I get it. And then she hits the auditory signal to let the Indoraptor know, now you can attack the laser point. And he proceeds to, like, flip down the roof so that it misses him and crashes through. That's the most insane plan to communicate with your eyes across the room from someone you went on one date with before Jurassic World started, and then had a weird amount of dating in between these two movies. That is the most forced chemistry that maybe I've ever seen on screen.
Clearly they're bad at communicating. Remember the beginning of the movie where he's like, he thought that he had left her and she said no?
Yeah.
Bad at communicating.
I
was going to say, so earlier on in the movie when they were introducing the raptor thing.
The Indoraptor, yeah.
So, they're kind of like demonstrating its... how great it is, and it's like shows the laser point thing, and then they say something about acoustic something, like they did that thing that Ant-Man does that I hate, where they're just making up words. So I know that that's a real word, but they're making up terms that don't mean anything, because when they said an acoustic thing, I'm like, I mean, I'm no musician, I'm no like trained ear person, but shouldn't it be like sonar or something, or like like I feel like it shouldn't be named an acoustic whatever it is, but you're the auditory person, I'm not.
Yeah, I think that they say two words, and I think it's like it's acoustic something, and that made sense to me.
Okay,
I think sonar would mean like
I know
bouncing
sonar.
off sound to locate something. So this is just like an auditory trigger. So that I think that's not, maybe I don't agree with you on that one.
Okay, fine.
And
I thought that when I thought about it in the movie while watching, I'm like, this is probably just nothing.
But I've ranted so much, you're like, I want something.
Yeah, I guess.
So then the movie's basically over. The clone girl has let them all out inexplicably, basically, and then all the dinosaurs are getting out, and they're attacking the bad guys exclusively. And then the T-Rex from the first movie comes out again, and I think it kills one of the dinosaurs or something like that, or a person. I think it eats the bad guy of the movie, and then it does the when dinosaurs roam the earth roar. And again, kind of like my hunter point earlier in the podcast, why did they decide, you know what, of all the things in Jurassic Park, we need to take this literal first dinosaur that people love, the T-Rex, and place it into both Jurassic World movies and make it recreate the pose from the first movie? What is the purpose of that?
You know what was funny too is earlier in the movie when they were first getting to the island, I think Justice asked a question. I don't remember exactly what it was, but she was like, oh, I mean, we don't really know. Oh, I think he was talking about how is that T-Rex still alive? And she was like, we don't really know how long they can live because they were created, because they were cloned.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so are you telling me that the whole purpose for Laura Dern and Sam Neill coming to the island was to study them? And you're saying that anything that they learned from them might not actually be true from what actual dinosaurs that lived? The way she said it was we will actually never really know.
Yeah.
And I know that
I guess you're right.
That's one of the most nitpicky things ever, but it is kind of I'm watching it and I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me remember too in the second movie, one of the things that Julianne Moore really wanted to study was for some reason we hypothesize that when a T-Rex is born, the parents abandon it. I guess we just know that because of fossil records. And they're now hopefully able to maybe prove that T-Rex parents are nurturing And it's like,
Yeah.
that is so, I mean, clearly I'll never be an archaeologist, clearly, or a paleontologist, but that makes no sense to me. And it is kind of like, I mean, maybe these T-Rexes do take care of this baby T-Rex. I don't know what happened so long ago when they were still alive. And I have reached the point where I just am like so done with everything.
Yeah. Me too. I think we have summed up Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I think it's a complete disaster of a movie.
Yeah.
I have nothing more to say about this particular movie.
No.
I think I've said what I wanted to say about the series as a whole.
Sure.
Have you?
No. Or, yeah.
Okay. Well, one thing, we're going to give you our rankings. But before we do that, I'm gonna try and sandwich this. I want to tell you about www.patreon.com/MicahMcCaw. Now, on this website, you can pledge maybe $3 a month, or you could pledge $4 or $5 or $10, depending on the tier, and you get an exclusive podcast every month that we don't release. This month, it's The Incredibles, Brad Bird's 2004 The Incredibles. And then, because over there, we're doing the MPU, the sequel, where we're doing movies with only 2 entries, because over here, we do 3 entries. So there's that. Then I have... I want to tell you about something else. I released this insane video that I worked really, really hard on this week, where I took the song "The Book" from Greta Gerwig's Little Women, and I learned every single instrument on guitar, and my friend Jeremy Oliveira mixed it all together, and I put it into a video on YouTube. I'll probably put a link to it in this episode. And it shows the clip from the movie, and then it shows all of my guitar parts. It is so cool, and I worked really, really hard on it, and I would love it if you would give it a listen and share it and all of that stuff.
It's very cool.
It's very cool. So I wanted to talk about those things.
And then, I haven't mentioned yet, but I have some art prints for sale.
Yes.
I haven't been able to figure out how to put it on my website yet, but
I bet they'll be on by the time this episode comes out.
Hopefully. But if not, you can contact Micah or myself, however you find ways to contact us
Twitter,
on the interweb.
Email, any of it.
But that also segues into, I feel like I might have plugged this before, but I don't know. But I
Plug
have...
away.
What?
Plug away, baby.
Oh, Recount Reveal.
.com.
It is a website of mine. Where twice a month I come out with, it is about bizarre, spooky, historical events.
Yeah.
A lot of it's about folklore. Sometimes it's about Men in Black, not the movie, the actual Men in Black. Sometimes I interview paranormal experts, and it's free. You just go to recountandreveal.com.
Yes. So please do that. Now... we're going to tell you our rankings for the Lord of the Rings series, because we never did it at the end of our Lord of the Rings series.
Oh.
So I'm going to start. And at number 6, I have The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. Number 5, I have The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. Number 4, I have The Hobbit, The Unexpected Journey. Now, this might surprise you, Jordan.
Okay.
Number 3, I have The Two Towers.
Okay.
Number 2, I have The Fellowship of the Ring. And number 1, The Return of the King.
Okay, so mine's going to be pretty annoying.
Okay.
But I agree with The Hobbit. My ranking's the same.
Okay.
But I'm one
3.
of those people where I like Lord of the Rings.
Oh, come on. No, come on.
I can never decide. Each one I like is better than the last one.
So then you would go Fellowship 3, Two Towers 2, and Return of the King 1.
I guess if you want to look at it that way, but even if I randomly watch Two Towers, it's like, yeah, that's my favorite one until I watch which one I watch next.
Okay, all right.
They're all perfect.
So then now before we do our Jurassic Park, this is such an ad-loaded episode at the end here. I want to thank Sean Siders, also known as Mogosaurus, for creating the...
Say it again because I cut you off.
Oh, Mogosaurus, Moogasaurus, I believe. Mogosaurus, you can find him on Instagram, and there's some fantastic songs he's put out, for doing the music for this.
Yes.
He's a huge Jurassic Park head, and I was like, can you please do something? It'd be really cool. So I'm glad he was able to be a part of it. And then, oh no, I lost my train of thought. There's so many things I was trying to say.
Did you want to watch some trailer?
Yes. At the end of this episode, after we give our rankings, Dan Eden from the 90 Under 90 podcast that we did Fantastic Mr. Fox on, he sent a clip on why he thinks Fallen Kingdom is really good.
You're going to put it at the end of the episode?
Yeah, I'm going to put it...
That sucks for him.
What?
We just ripped this movie apart.
No, but I said I was going to do that. So
no, I know you did. I just feel bad now.
But it's going to be at the very end of this episode, and I think what's kind of fun about it is I have not listened to it, so I have no idea what he says. I will listen to it for the first time when I put it in. So they already convinced me on a few things from Jurassic World that I wasn't a fan of. So who knows? Maybe I'll put it in and be like, what did we record this podcast for? But thank you for sending that in,
If
Dan.
anything, people who listen to this episode probably just recognized how tired we are.
I'm not tired. I'm jazzed, baby.
Tired of the series?
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm tired.
Okay, now why don't you do your Jurassic Park ranking?
Okay, so this one, 2... No.
You're going from the bottom to the top?
Bottom to the top. This one, the last one,
Jurassic
World.
Fallen Kingdom,
Jurassic World. This is like Star Wars. I can never get. What's an episode? Fallen Kingdom, Jurassic World, Lost World.
Yeah.
3 and 1.
And that's reverse order.
That's least to greatest.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do least to greatest as well, and mine's very easy because it is the order in which they came out. Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom.
Least to greatest?
Least to greatest. Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom.
I understand what you're saying now. You're saying it opposite, so it sounds wrong.
Okay, my favorite is Jurassic Park, followed by Jurassic Park: The Lost World.
Do you still like that one better than 3?
Yeah, followed by Jurassic Park 3, then Jurassic World, then Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. I think it's just such a better directed movie, even though San Diego, as far as I'm concerned, can be cut off.
Okay.
So that is the series that finds a way. We did it, folks.
Did we announce what our next series is?
We did in the previous episode, but we should probably remind them.
We're doing Winnie the Pooh.
We're doing Winnie the freaking Pooh. And it's kind of weird because it's not a traditional series, so there will be 6 movies, and the next week will be the mini adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which is on Disney Plus.
What year did it come out?
1979, I think.
Really?
Let me
Have
look
I even
really quick.
seen that?
I've never seen it. It came out on 1977. And then that will be followed by the Tigger movie.
I love the Tigger movie.
I believe it is Piglet's big movie after that.
Yeah.
The Heffalump movie.
Okay.
Winnie the Pooh. And then we'll finish it off with Christopher Robin.
Yes.
And
by the end of it, we'll all be crying.
Yeah, and I think it'll be a really nice and fun series. We don't have any guests, so if you're here for the non-guesting, no. But let's get in touch with our
nostalgic side.
Let's have some fun in this dark time we're living in, and get encouraged by a bear that loves some honey. So join us next week. Now, I am forcing Jordan to watch the Jurassic World Dominion trailer that recently dropped.
Am I looking it up?
And no, I'll pull it up for you. And,
I can look it up.
Okay, and while she does that, I'm just going to explain what she's doing. She is going to live comment on this. So the episode is over, but she's now going to live comment on what she thinks of this trailer as it goes.
What the family claimed to be a near-death experience.
Is this the new normal? This could be the first dinosaur born on U.S. soil. Is it a bear?
Oh my gosh, she's crying, everybody.
How many times do you have to see the evidence? Too many red lines have been crossed.
She jumped. Her eyes bulged.
We're causing our own extinction.
Ugh, I hate baby stuff.
Yeah, when babies are in danger.
Yeah.
You like babies, right?
Yeah, I love babies. I feel nothing. But I also just don't care anymore.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Hope that was worth listening till the end.
We'll see you next week. Bye.
Hello. Now, I know this isn't going to be the most popular opinion, but I think Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is my second favorite Jurassic Park movie, behind the first, of course, because it's the first, and you can't really top the first. But the second one, what I like about it is, and we talked about this in our episode, is the director J.A. Bayona. I think that's how you pronounce it, Bayona. He had what he brought to the table was a little bit of his own influence, a little bit of his own perspective, and he really tried something with at least the second half of Fallen Kingdom. It is a very schizophrenic movie, and that's, I think, a reason a lot of people don't like it. It could even justify a 50% rating because 50% of it is a solid movie, and I think 50% of it is not. The first half, where they're on the island, it's like a rescue mission with the volcanoes. It's mediocre at best. I'm talking about the second half, where they end up in the mansion with the dino auction. I thought that was so interesting and rich and claustrophobic and more horror-y than any of the other films, except for that raptor sequence in the kitchen. And that's what I like about these movies. In fact, I was talking to my girlfriend yesterday about what are these movies? Are they sci-fi? Are they action? Are they horror? And the first thing I said was sci-fi horror, but I thought to myself, what makes a horror movie a horror movie? What makes an action movie an action movie? And when you look at the scenes, and Micah mentioned this, that build tension, like the raptors in the kitchen, that's horror to me, because it's that pulse pounding second by second, don't breathe, not the movie, but the scenario, situation of it all with the dinosaurs, as opposed to just running in a giant field with a big herd of dinosaurs, which to me is more action and bombastic. That's really the difference, is bombast versus claustrophobia. And the second half of Fallen Kingdom is a bit of a claustrophobic nightmare. And when going back to what J.A. Bayona was saying about his perspective, was he had a mission statement with that second half, which was the mansion was a castle, the little girl was the princess, and the Indoraptor was the dragon, the fire-breathing dragon. So he was going for sort of like a fairy tale entry point for the second half, at least, of that movie. And I found that really interesting. And from a horror lover, I thought it was a really interesting move for the franchise. So I know that's not the most popular opinion, and I know I'm slurring here because I'm just trying to keep up with my brain here. But the second movie, I think, is really solid, and it's often overlooked. I think you should give it another look. Thank you for indulging me. And back to the show.